this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
The springtime thaw is finally here. Flowers are blooming, days are longer. We're saying yes to more plans and finally getting outside, running, walking, just moving again. It's the perfect time to upgrade your everyday go-tos with Bombas. Take Bombas sport socks. They're super comfortable and designed with sport-specific tech for running, cycling, yoga, hiking, you name it. I use them to run in, and I can tell you they work beautifully. So head over to bombas.com and use code SYSK for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com, code SYSK at checkout. Hey, and welcome to The Short Stuff. I'm Josh, and Chuck's here, and Jerry's here for Dave. So that makes this an official Short Stuff.
That's right, and we're going to issue a trigger warning on this one. Part of the story has to do with sexual assault, so we just wanted to kind of let everyone know that that's coming. But ultimately, this is a story of courage and bravery.
Yeah. So if you go down to Sicily and southern Italy and ask them what a footina is, they will say, we don't really do that anymore, but we'll tell you what it is anyway. It means sudden escape. And in its most benign form, it was a way for couples who were consenting. They wanted to get married, but their families were like, no, we don't approve of this union, and therefore you can't get married. It was a way for them to elope. All right, so the footina was essentially an elopement. The key to the footina, though, was that the couple would wait a little while, say a week, and then they would return home. And their families would presume that over the course of that week, this couple had had premarital sex.
Yeah.
So when they came back, the couple was like, now you have to agree to letting us get married. And in fact, it's going to be a specific type of marriage that's prescribed by law and socially. It's called the matrimonio ripetore. It's called a rehabilitating marriage, right?
That's right. And that was a legal thing. It was a socially accepted thing to where you could restore honor to that bride. It was a loophole if you wanted to get married and your parents didn't like who you were getting married to. Mm-hmm. But there was a very dark version of this in which a man could take a woman that he wanted to marry, even if she didn't want to. Mm-hmm. He could take her away. He could kidnap her. He could hold her against her will. He could sexually assault her. And then in the same way that elopement, which was consensual, would have to be, could restore that marriage, they would then come back with a woman and say, well, you are now a tainted woman. If you're damaged goods, no one's going to marry you. So if you want to restore your honor and you want to have a family one day and be married, then you have to marry me, maybe your captor and assaulter.
Yeah. And so it's a no-win situation here, right? Because if you wanted to be not ostracized by your community, if you wanted to ever get married because no one would marry you after you were essentially tainted goods because you had been sexually assaulted by this man, the only way out of it was to consent to this rehabilitating marriage because it would restore your honor. And then also conveniently, it erased any criminal act that had led to that marriage. Legally, it let the man off the hook for kidnapping and sexual assault because the woman had married him, even though she had no choice. If she ever wanted to get married and say have kids, her only chance now was with the man who had kidnapped and sexually assaulted her. That's just how that worked.
Yeah, so this was a thing that went seemingly completely unchallenged as far as anyone knows until the mid-1960s when a woman named Franca Viola came along and said no. In 1963, in her hometown of Alcamo, she was 15 years old. She was engaged to a 23-year-old nephew of a Sicilian mafioso. His name was Filippo Melodia. And they were headed toward marriage, but he got nabbed for a crime, for theft. 6 months into their engagement, she broke it off. He fled to Germany to escape this going to prison, basically. And while he was gone, she became engaged. She fell in love to another guy, this guy she grew up with named Giuseppe Ruisi. Her former fiance, I guess, Melodia, came back in 1965, said, I want you back. And she said, no, I really love this guy. I'm staying with him.
Yeah. So Melodia kept trying over and over again to win her back, and she kept saying no every time. So as each time he was becoming angrier and angrier, and also he was humiliated every time that she turned him down. So he hatched a plan where he would kidnap Franca from her home. He and 15 other men did on the day after Christmas in 1965. And he held her at a farmhouse, and he sexually assaulted her there over the course of a week, which effectively triggered that matrimonial repertory. Like, it gave her no choice at that point. And then after the week, she was released. And then as part of this custom, initially Melodia and his accomplices were arrested. But the choice was up to Franca to press charges or to marry the guy. That was her choice. And again, up to this point, as far as we know, every single woman put in this position agreed to marry the person who kidnapped and sexually assaulted her.
That's right. So I feel like that's halfway point. It's a good time for a break, and we'll tell you what happened right after this.
Hey everybody, we're here to talk to you about Wayfair, who believes that spaces should be functional, they should be comfortable, they should be well-designed, and they can be well-designed by you with their help.
Your updated space should feel more comfortable, inviting, and practical for everyday use. And we're talking about outdoor seating. We're talking about grills. We're talking about major appliances. If you need storage solutions, Wayfair can help you out. Patio lighting, rugs, decor. It is your one-stop shop for home.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting nice out, so it's time to think about living outdoors for the next few months. And Wayfair knows that outdoor furniture, it's heavy, it's intimidating to assemble. So Wayfair has stepped in and said, we're going to handle the hard part so you don't have to.
That's right. You can shop Wayfair Verified, your shortcut to the good stuff. And that means their team of product specialists are going to vet everything by hand using a 10-point inspection, testing things like, quality materials, functionality, and features, and even how long it takes to build that piece of furniture. And the overall experience save time, reduce hassle, and improved convenience.
Patio season is here, and these deals won't last. So head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's WAYFAIR.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook, or you just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about. It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, and it's hosted by Cal Penn.
That's right. Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Yeah, Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now. So if you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start. Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so I actually kind of spoiled it earlier when I said that she said no, but that's exactly what happened. Franca very, very bravely decided to press charges. And like you said, she was the first woman in modern times, maybe of all times, to say, I'm not participating in this. Mm-hmm. Even though her honor was tarnished, her family's reputation was tarnished. They got threats. Their barn and their vineyard were burned down. Because remember, this is a nephew of a mafioso, so some heavy things were going down. And these guys were arraigned for trial. It became an international story in 1966. They knew he did it, so it wasn't like, did you do it or not? He basically said, no, I was lovesick. She loved me too, and it was the parents who didn't approve. So this is just like a good old-fashioned eloping. What was that called?
Fuitina.
It's like a good old-fashioned fuitina. And she said this, I am the property of no one. No one can force me to love a person I do not respect. Honor is lost by the one who does certain things, not the one who is subjected to them.
Right. She also said to him directly from the stand, I do not love you. I will not marry you. And she was, despite she was going against all custom, and again, I think it's worth pointing out, her family stood by her, and rather than pressuring her to do, what the community and society wanted her to do. That was extremely brave of them as well. And in return for her bravery and courage, she won. Melodia lost his case. And because rape and kidnapping were still crimes in Sicily and Italy, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison, ended up serving 10. And 7 of his 15 accomplices received 4-year sentences each. And I guess kind of joyously, 2 years after Filippo Melodia got out of prison, so he spent 10 years in prison. Within 2 years, he'd been gunned down in Modena in Italy, famous for its balsamic vinegar.
So the media, got a hold of this story, like I said earlier, and you might think like the media talked about like just how awful this was. They did in a way, but the media in Italy also talked about how pretty she was. And there were on TV, there were panel discussions where they talked to local men about like, hey, like, she's good looking. Would you still marry her? And, they were all like, no, I still wouldn't marry her. So the media coverage was just very sexist and not fair. But she did get married to Giuseppe. They were married December 1968. She was 20 by this time. He was 25 years old. And it was a national celebration, basically, when she got married. Yeah.
Surprisingly, there's a huge happy ending to this. Giuseppe is another person who deserves credit for standing by her, too. He was honestly her only chance. He was the only man who could step up and restore her honor. Because essentially they got married under a matrimonio reparare. It was a celebration by the country, so much so that Italy's president, and I think Mashable pointed this out, Italy's president directly sent them a wedding present of $40, which would be over $250 today. And the transport minister gave them a month of free railway rides. So this woman went...
Your rail pass?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a month of it, that's pretty good for a newlywed couple, right?
Yeah.
So she went from scorned and people in the media talking about how her life was basically over, she's going to be a spinster, to being celebrated in Italy by the very people who had essentially tried to pressure her into submitting to Melodia's advances.
Yeah, and this was 1966 when it happened, so you would think, well... In 1967, they probably got rid of this thing. Not so. It wasn't. It took till 1981 to repeal that law, which is staggering. I can't believe it took that long.
Yeah, the fouettina is still around, and the rehabilitation marriage is still around. But the key is that if you rape the woman, you are no longer off the hook if she marries you. And yeah, the fact that it took more than a decade is a little unnerving. But that was one of the things that she did. She kind of shined an international spotlight on this really backwards custom. And Italy and Sicily were kind of like shrinking a little bit in the spotlight because it just made them look so bad. So that was one thing she did. And also she was credited for inspiring no less than 4 women in the same situation to press charges on their abductor and assaulter by the time she even got to trial. Who knows how many she inspired after that. So she changed this custom that was so old. You can't even tell when it would have began.
Yeah, for sure. If you think, why haven't I seen this movie? Well, you can. There's a filmmaker named Marta Savina who had an award-winning short film called Viola, and she turned that into a feature film called Prima Donna, or The Girl from Tomorrow.
Yes. And in an even happier part of the happy ending, on International Women's Day in 2014, President Giorgio Napolitano bestowed on Franca the honor of Grande Ufficiale dell'Ordine al Merito della Repubblica Italiana, which means that she was essentially knighted for her act of bravery. Amazing. Huge hat tip to Yumi. I had never heard of Franca Viola until she mentioned her to me. I think she sent me an article a while back. So, I appreciate that. I think the whole world does now.
Yeah. Did she see the movie, or was it just from something she read?
I think she ran across something like an article on the internet and sent it to me. So, yeah.
I want to check out that movie and see what that's like.
Yeah, and a huge hat tip to Franca Viola, too, for being so brave. It's just, what an amazing story.
Agreed.
Chuck said agreed. Short Stuff is out.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.